Well, hello, all my poor people. It's Michael Diederich here. I'm just a poor boy. Welcome to my channel, or welcome back, as the case may be. Now, before I get started today, I'm going to say something I don't normally say, but I thought I don't do it enough. If you are not subscribed to my channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button for me. I would really appreciate it. I'm done with that. Let's move on. So, for those of you that have been following my painting journey, you know that I'm currently working on a commission piece for my good friend Gina. I made an attempt and it turned out beautifully, but it was a little bit violent and lightningy, like lightning for her taste, jagged, and I understood that. So I decided to try something different, a technique I'd never used before, and that was with a comb, and that was one of my more recent videos. I did my second attempt, and I learned a lot during that video. One of them was, for that technique, my paints needed to be thinner for sure. And number two, my comb that I used for that technique, the teeth of the comb were just too thin. But I'm going to talk about those things during that video. So last night I came up to my studio and I got ready to pour. I'm going to pour actually after I filmed this video, but I got all my paints mixed up and ready to go. And I see a lot of beginning pourers out there who are getting frustrated. They get started and it's not turning out they want, and things aren't quite going the way they want. And I wanted to give them a couple pieces of advice. Number one, don't give up. Relax. It's not as easy as it looks. I mean, there's a lot of people who go, oh yeah, I can do that. But there's a difference between creating a beautiful fluid art piece and just moving paint around on a canvas. Unfortunately, I also see a lot of on these sites that I love answering questions on, like a fluid art for beginners and things like that. People often ask for feedback. And one of the problems I find with that is that 99% of the feedback is just positive. It's beautiful. I love it. It's great, regardless. And if someone says, oh, I didn't really like this, then that person gets jumped on like, oh, that's not nice. If you're going to post a piece and say, hey, can I have your feedback? You need to be prepared for negative feedback. Yeah. And just because you're on one of these pages and everyone's like, oh, it's great. I love it. Oh, it's so good. Ask actually people around you, people you know, and ask them for their honest opinion. Yeah. And I'm not saying that your art's ugly. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying you probably want a more honest bit of feedback. And if you're going to ask for feedback, prepare for honesty. Yeah. The other thing is I see people trying techniques before they've like learned the basic. So I see people that are super excited, the Dutch pour. I love the Dutch pour, but don't start with the Dutch pour. For the Dutch pour, you need to know so many things about mixing and color theory and consistencies and all the stuff that they just go wrong so often and people give up. And it's like, yeah, you don't dive off the high dive board before you learn to swim, you know? So be patient and take time, yeah? So what I've decided to do today is I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. First thing I want to talk about is the 5 C's to acrylic pouring, yeah? If you can follow these 5 C's, I think that your results will be better if you really master these 5 ideas. So the first C is creativity. Remember, this is a creative process. If you're a perfectionist, you will get frustrated very fast. You can't control the paint, yeah? You have to work together with the paint and learn all sorts of ways to be creative with it. For example, if you've just poured a canvas and you're getting ready to manipulate it, I often see people go, oh, that's the corner I don't like, so I'm going to get rid of that first. But then when you come back to the center, that corner that you liked the least has anchored and is going to start stretching. And I always say, find the piece that you like best, get that one to the corner, have it anchored, and then start moving around, because then you will be able to stretch that and preserve that. Yeah? So the first C is creativity. you should be having fun with this and being creative. Yeah, this should be also for beginners especially, a leisure activity. You shouldn't be stressing out. And that goes straight into my second C, which is calm. Yeah, you need to remain calm. Don't panic, don't overdo it. And that calmness also has to go with the idea of it's going to take some time usually, and a couple of pours before you learn what you're doing. Yeah, so just relax, be calm. Yeah. Now the last three C's are my big secrets of what do you need to do to make successful acrylic pour paintings. And the first one is color. Yeah. Now I have a video that will help you pick great colors without worrying about color theory. Now, if you're going to continue with this, I recommend that you study some color theory and how it works. It will help you find better palettes. It will teach you things like, oh, yeah, I don't want green. Why do I keep getting green? Because I'm pouring yellow and blue next to each other. Yeah. Yellow and black. It's like, oh, why isn't this working? There's always a way around certain things, and there's a learning curve, but colors is going to be the first step. Your colors need to work together, and you need to find in those colors. Now, this could also be another C, but contrast especially. I see people, they'll go, they pick like 5 shades of blue, but it turns out kind of nice. But if you don't have a lighter or darker or a white or metallic in there, the colors kind of blend together a little bit more. You need to find that contrast in your colors. So that's colors. Next, composition. I was just talking about that a minute ago about, anchoring the piece that you like. I see people will, do like a ring pour, and then they start manipulating it. And as soon as they've got it off the 4 corners, they're done. And I just go, but look at the complete composition. Why is your eye drawn to certain things? Why do a lot of people go, oh, this is a great painting. A lot of people go, oh, I don't like that painting. A lot of that has to do with how your eye looks at it. If you've got a big rectangular canvas and you've done this ring pour and your ring is kind of like off center and like all of one color is here and this is all blended, you might want to go, oh, how can I manipulate to get rid of that, to stretch this, get this blob or center more to the center so that my eye is focused on it. Now, that's not to say that the middle of your ring pour has to be in the middle of your canvas every time. That's not true at all. But you need to look at the canvas as a whole and learn about composition, why certain paintings are pleasing to the eye and why others aren't. And my last C is what we're going to be talking about today, because I'm actually going to kill 2 birds with 1 stone with this video, because as I said, I mixed all of my paints last night, but the last C is consistency. This is where it goes wrong with a lot of pours, is the consistency of your paints has to be right. Yeah. There's certain techniques that need to be thinner or thicker. With the Dutch pour, I find that your colors that you're blowing over the base should be just a little bit thinner than your base. And sometimes, for the effect you're going for, the other way around. Yeah? There's a learning curve there. But in general, when you're doing pours like any sort of cup pour, for example, the consistencies of the paint should be the same. Now I get people that go, yeah, but I use the same pouring medium and I use the same brand of paint for all my colors and they weren't consistent. Yeah, the companies do their best, but not every paint, especially like I use Amsterdam, love it. But certain colors are definitely thinner than others and thicker as well. I see a lot of amateur or beginning pourers going, oh, my metallics are so thin. And I always like to say, if your metallics are thinner than your regular pigments, it's probably because you're using a cheap paint. Yeah, a good metallic should be denser and heavier than regular pigment. Yeah, so if you want it to be the same consistency as your other paints, you're going to have to thin it down a little bit more, add a touch more water, yeah, or pouring medium, whatever it is, to get it right. Yeah, so I'm going to talk about consistency today. I'm using these colors. I've got, it's not important what they are. You'll see that if you're interested, you'll see them in my next video. But I've got 2 of the same red here because There's more red in this painting than anything else. There's this purple, this pink, an orange, a yellow, and a white. I also have 4 metallics: red, purple, yellow, and white. Now, I learned from my last painting, the metallics, but I already knew that. They're thicker, so these ones I had to thin a little bit more, yeah? And I immediately noticed while mixing last night that some colors were thinner. When doing big pieces, like to mix my paint in the bottles. I weigh them with my pouring medium so that they're all the same measurements. And one of my secrets for these plastic bottles is I put a glass marble in them and shake it up. It really helps mix the paints, yeah? And then you can wash them and reuse them. So in talking about consistency, today, before I move on to my next video and do this pour, I'm going to check the consistencies. Now, I looked at them kind of last night a little bit, but I wasn't completely sure. And paint, when you let it sit overnight or even longer period, even when they're sealed, if you use glue or thicker paints, they can get thicker in their consistency. So we're going to find it out. I've taken this piece of cardboard here. I've taped it so it's at a slight angle, and I've just drawn some lines on here. I'm going to take my paints and I'm going to do a couple of drips onto the top line, and I'm going to see how fast it goes down and reaches these other lines. And if they're all very close to the same, then it doesn't have to be exact, but it will let me know that my consistencies are good, yeah? So I'm just going to pour through these one at a time, real light shake, yeah? I'm going to start with this first bottle of red, and I'm going to go towards my line, and I'm going to go one, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So about 13 to get halfway down. Yeah? Let's see if I just add 2 more drops, what will happen. Because this seems actually very slow moving. And last night when I did my test as well, I had a much steeper angle, yeah? Because it definitely looks thin enough for my purposes, yeah? Okay, so that's the first red. Now, let's immediately check the same red. Same mixture, same amount, everything. At 13, still pretty close. Now let's get those last 2 drops in there. The thing with a steep angle is then you can really see like the fluidity a little bit more, especially if you're looking for a thinner consistency. With a less steep, then you'll get like more of a consistency, because you'll see at a certain point like they're going, are they matching up? That looks pretty good. Okay, let's do our purple. Sorry if I'm in the wrong angle. I'm just going to keep going for now and then look back at what's happened. Now it's funny then, looking so like the red and the purple looking good, but that second red bottle, I don't know if it was because I gave it, you can see it's actually more paint as well. I don't know if I went too thick with the squeeze, or if it's just thinner than the rest, because if it is thinner, then I might want to thicken that up just a tad. Like with that orange, I could just see like, oh, there was paint collecting the top of my nozzle, so those were bigger blobs that came out. But still, the consistency seems to be, in comparison to the pink and the purple. Now that yellow, and wipe it off. That yellow grabbed some of that orange, which was almost like a full dot. So I'm just going to add one dot to this. And while I'm allowing those to continue down their paths, I'm going to move on real quick to my metallic colors. Alrighty, so looking at this, then I'm going to, with my metallics, I'm going to add a little bit of water to the first three. And then when it comes to these, I'm going the first red, thin it out a little bit, purple, thin it out a little bit, yeah? And then I think the rest are fairly close. I mean, I could, you know, really nitpick if I wanted to. But I think that's okay. And then with the white, I'm actually, I think, going to add a little bit of a pigment to it, because it's too thin. Yeah. I'm not going to do a second test because I've got enough information now. I might check one of the metallics later, and then also like that first red, just to make sure it's thin enough. But this is an easy way to check how are my consistencies. Yeah. Now again, it's not perfect. Like I said, this yellow looks really, really good. It seemed the same, but the blobs of paint came out a little bit faster, so there was, I think, a little bit more. So it's not perfect. I can't go, oh, it's way thicker. No, relax. I can actually also, in shaking it, I can feel that they're very, very similar. And then when I grab this white one, I can even hear like, oh yeah, that is thinner. Yeah. So remember, be creative, stay calm, study color, think about composition, and be consistent. Yeah. Consistent in what you keep trying, and consistency is in your paints. Last thing I'll say about consistency, if something goes wrong and you want to try it again, one of the big problems is that people go, oh, okay, well then I'll use a different kind of paint, and I'll change my pouring medium, and I'll add silicone, and only change one thing, because if you change a bunch of things, you won't know which one is right and which one is wrong. I hope this was helpful for people who are frustrated. Thanks for watching. My name is Michael Diederich. I'm just a poor boy. I'll see you next time.